Hello.
We are live. I'm over here petting a cat, so you'll have to forgive me.
Yeah.
Yeah. George.
Yeah. Bring him up here. Introduce George.
Oh, this is George.
This is the floof.
I get distracted by cats very easily.
Again, look at you like, what are you doing?
Hello.
He can be mean, I'm warning you, because he's not always very social.
That's okay. I relate. But anyway, this live stream is not about this lovely floof right here. It's about Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, our book club book for May. So, yeah, we're here to share our thoughts. Yes. We're here a couple hours later than normal, but hopefully there's still some of you here that are watching. So.
And a week late also, as we discussed, because last weekend was just crazy busy and there was no way we could fit this in then. So we flip-flopped a little.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's how it starts. Is he giving you the eye?
Yes. But anyway, okay, so this was your book choice.
It was mine.
For May.
Are you
happy
my
with your choice?
I'm very happy with my choice, actually.
I knew this was going to happen.
Okay. I have my prediction about you as well, but yes, I'm very, very happy with my choice. So, when we did our video on picking our book club books for this year, I said, I had no idea what this was about. No clue. I had just heard of it, and I knew that it was considered to be a very important piece of American literature and African American literature. So I thought it was probably high time that I read it. So that's why I picked it. And it was short. So
this is always a good thing.
Always
with
a good
book
thing
club books
for sure. Us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had no idea. No clue what it was about at all. So it is actually, now that I've read it, it is a woman. It's a story basically about a woman journeying to find herself, find what she's happy with, and get that happiness in a world that doesn't accept that. You do what you're told. It never says a date. It's early 19th century, probably late 20s, early 30s, probably, based on kind of what is going on. There is in the book a hurricane that if I probably went and Googled it, I could probably pinpoint the date, but I didn't do that. So anyway, probably late 20s, 30-ish, somewhere in there. And so already given the time period, women obviously didn't have a lot of agency in their own lives or in society in general. And Janie Crawford is a Black woman as well. So
it's like a double whammy.
A double whammy right there. So it is Janie's kind of journey through life and trying to get what she wants, basically. So, and I loved it. If you couldn't tell by now, I did love it very much. I gave it 5 stars. Easy 5 for me, because there's just, in fact, my copy of this book includes a foreword, an afterword, as well as a bibliography of other works that are by her or about her. And so the actual book itself is only like 190 pages long. And there's so much packed in to that 190 pages that it just blew me away. I loved it. So my prediction is you did not like it so much.
Nope. I knew when I finished the book, I'm going to be like, Kelly and I are going to disagree on this because I knew you would love it. And I'm over here teetering between a 1 or a 2 star. So
really?
Yeah. This book.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. I did not like this book. I just.
Really? Okay. This ought to be good.
Yeah.
It's
like finally we have a book that we so drastically disagree about.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
It hasn't happened for a while.
It hasn't. It really hasn't. So I'm going to guess the first thing you didn't like about it was the writing style.
Yes.
The language.
Yeah.
Which I loved.
Mm-hmm. It took me well over half the book to start to actually understand what was being said.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, I hated it so much.
Did you read it out loud? Okay, first of all, was it the dialogue?
Yeah. I don't like books that are so heavy on dialogue to begin with. Like I like more like narrative stories, and I
Mhm.
want all of the character back and forth and all of that.
I don't want him to talk.
I don't. I mean, I want
All
them
the talking. I was like, when we were reading the romance books, and you were like, I don't like all the feelings.
exactly. I'm a factual person. tell it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't like that, and then like the whole having to get into the mindset of like the accent that it's written in,
Mhm.
I guess, was difficult. It might have been easier if I read it out loud. I wasn't ever reading it in a place where I could read it out loud.
Yeah.
Maybe an audiobook would have also been better.
Yeah.
I feel like
I
that
bet so.
this probably would have benefited me more as an audiobook than a physical copy. And I have seen some people say that in like reviews and stuff too.
The dialogue in the book is written in an accent, in the dialect. And it's written phonetically as well. So you kind of got to get into it. The narrative parts, which I agree are few, are written.
Yeah, the narrative parts were great. No issues with those.
Although I have to say, it is very poetic language that she uses, which of course I love. So, but I did, at kind of towards the beginning, I was having a hard time, and I started reading some of the dialogue out loud and tried to get it into a rhythm, and it had helped to figure out how. Oh, that's what that. Oh, okay, that's what that is.
Yeah.
So it did help quite a bit to read. So yeah, an audiobook probably would. Yeah, would have been pretty cool.
Probably won't try the audiobook, but maybe. I don't know. Like I also
Okay, I'm gonna make another prediction. I bet you didn't like the relationships in this story either.
No, I didn't.
I knew it. In fact, as I was reading, I was like, oh, I is not gonna like this. I knew it.
They were all dumb.
I knew it.
No, it's like the first one. I don't know. Like, first off, this girl, her whole thing was about trying to find that love and then happily ever after. I'm like, girl, this is not the time period to be looking for that kind of a relationship, okay? You are here to look out for someone who's going to take care of you, okay?
Like, so you were grandma.
Yeah! I mean, like, if she already had, like, a secret admirer, like, someone she was crushing on, like, whatever, like, that young love kind of thing, then, like, great. But you know what? That was not the time for it.
She was only 16.
Oh, but, back then, that was practically 40, so.
Oh, it was not. Jeez. It's not in, like, the Middle Ages here.
I don't know, like, I didn't appreciate how she just up and left the first dude for some rando traveling dude on the side of the road or whatever. Like, that just kind of bugged me a lot because I didn't trust him at all. Did not trust him. And then she just went and run off with another. I don't know.
She only ran off once.
She did. Yeah.
I mean, the second time when she left with the guy, she was a widow.
Yeah, but she still like ran away from her life.
No, she didn't. She didn't have a life.
She
ran away to get a life. She did not have a life.
I feel like her life that she had wasn't all that bad, and she was just making it seem a lot worse than it really was.
No. Okay, so Janie Crawford is the main character of the book, and she is raised by her grandma. Her grandma was born in slavery, and while she was a slave, had been used by her master and had a baby, her baby girl. So much is made kind of throughout the story that, well, I mean, it doesn't come out and really say that Janie's light-skinned, but it does kind of refer to her. I think one time it mentions the color of her skin, but they, talks about her hair a lot, how it grows long and thick and heavy. And it also talks about her features some.
Yeah.
So you get the idea that, I mean, obviously it talked about like her mother had blonde hair. So, and then her mother was, when she was 17, was raped by a school teacher. And I believe the school teacher was also white. So that gave, I think, probably Janie even more of a Caucasian look to her. And that's one of the things discussed in the book is colorism. And there's one character in particular towards the end that comes out a lot with very much against darker skinned, and the more Caucasian, lighter skin features are the way that this person thought they should be and they should fit in, and it was a whole thing. So anyway, it's not like Janie ever tries to pass. I know that never happens, but it is kind of one of the themes of the book, and in their culture is the light skinned um, Caucasian features. But anyway, so her mother takes off. No, don't know what happened to her. She just took off, and so Janie's raised by her grandma. And being that her grandma went through what she did, and her daughter went through what she did, she wanted Janie to have security and to be safe. And the way to do that was to marry someone solid, regardless of whether you loved them or not, whether you're attracted to them or not. And so Janie ends up married to this older, she's 16, and she ends up married to this older man who has 60 acres. And that's her grandma's way of protecting her. But I think they also set Janie up because they were like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Once you're married, that's when you fall in love.
Yeah,
that's when love comes. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, they were telling her the whole time about how like love is something that only comes after marriage.
Yeah, and then
marriage causes love. It's not something you have to do.
And then of course it doesn't, because she doesn't like this guy like at all. And she's like thinking, okay, great. Fine, I'll do what grandma says. I'll get married and I'll love him. And it doesn't happen. And so she goes back to grandma and she says, what's wrong? I don't know can I do something? Because I think she was trying. She was trying to do what she needed to do. Because she wasn't stupid.
No, she was just really naive.
She was naive and young, but she wasn't dumb. She knew what her grandma meant by needing protection. And so, but then she goes back to her grandma, and her grandma's like, "You dumb girl, what do you know? You're safe. That's all you need. He's good to you. Has he beat you? Has he, done the?"
That part was like kind of crazy. Like, it was like the lowest of standards that you could have. She's like, "Has he beat you?"
Yeah.
And then this is like, no? Okay, great. That's a perfect marriage.
He chops wood for you?
Like,
what?
What? My girl.
Don't be stupid. And I'm like, well, you're the ones that set her up to think this. And I mean, the passage before that was kind of like Janie being 16, and she's starting to really notice the world around her and seeing in nature how things are harmonious. And there's this one passage especially where she watches a bee pollinate on a pear tree, a flower on a pear tree, and she sees the bee go into the flower, and obviously knowing with nature this makes good things happen, and she's thinking that's a marriage, that's what. And so she's like, that's what she wants, is something harmonious and something together and something, a team, an equal partnership to do these things. And then she gets thrown into this marriage with this guy who basically agreed to overlook her parentage because he thought he could make something out of her, and was pretty much, in the beginning, went to buy a second mule so that she could go work in the field. So yeah, I really don't. And she was 16, so I don't really blame her too much for running off.
I mean, I guess I don't really either. But I don't know. I didn't like
You
any
didn't
other
like
relationship.
Joe.
No.
I didn't like Joe either.
No. He was, I knew from the start before. Wait, was Joe the one that had the store?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I knew from the start. I didn't trust him. I didn't trust him at all. And he was like, all he cared about was trying to become this big
voice.
you know.
So she's working, I don't know what she was doing. She was doing something at the house, and Mr. What's his name, her husband, had gone to buy the second mule so that, she could work in the field too. Because somebody had to plow those 60 acres. So Joe comes walking down the street, and they talk and meet up, and he sticks around and keeps talking to her. And he's telling her how he's going to go. This is in Florida, and they're going to go down south. There's this town that's being built by Black people for Black people. And he's got some money, and he's going to buy in. He's going to buy in big, and he's going to be a big voice in this town. And I think what Janie, I don't think necessarily Janie was attracted to him so much. Like, I don't think it was oh, he's so handsome, and I just love him so much, and I'm going to run away with him. I don't think that was it. I think Janie wanted to see things. Janie wanted to go places.
Yeah, she wanted to get out.
She wanted to experience things. And I think she liked Joe. I think she loved Joe in the end, but I think she went with him because she believed him when he promised to treat her well. And, if you were mine, you wouldn't be working in a field. I would never. You should be just sitting there looking pretty, which won't happen. But I think it was, she was really interested in this, because she had grown up, part of her childhood, her grandma lived in a cabin on the property of the white people she worked for. And so it says in the book, she was 6 years old before she even knew she was colored.
Mm-hmm.
She was Black. And some of the other children at the school that she went to looked down on her because she lived in a white person's backyard. And so her grandma actually saved up enough money to buy a little house to move Janie out of there so that she wouldn't be looked down on by other people in her community. And so I think Janie was really interested in this community run by Black people. So she went with Joe. She had this big argument with her husband because, she basically told him, and he pretty much came out and said, I just thought that I could make something out of you. So
I was doing this as a favor to your grandma
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah. And so she left. She wasn't gonna put up with that. So she left with Joe. And he did exactly what he said he was gonna do. They hit this town, and it was barely nothing, and he pretty much built the town and ran it. But then one of the ways that Janie described him in the book was there was some men that always felt the need to sit on a throne. And Jody, she called him Jody. Jody never had need to sit on a throne because he carried a throne around in his pants. So he was just always that kind of person that needed to be in charge, needed to be the center of attention, to the point where he never let her speak because it would take attention away from him.
And he was very jealous. He got jealous very easily. Like one of Janie's most distinguishing features was her hair.
Her hair,
of course. And so all of these other men in the town would see that and be like, "Oh, we've never seen hair like that before," and she's so beautiful, and they would want her attention and all that. So he started making her wear her hair in a head wrap, so that way no one could see it, because he'd see a couple of guys trying to touch her
hair,
her braids and stuff that
when her back was turned.
Yeah, so that had to
and he
stop.
was just very domineering. He wouldn't let her. They would all gather on the porch of the store That was like the gathering place where they would sit and they would play checkers or play card games or just talk. And Janie loved it. Janie loved to sit out there and listen to them talk.
Yeah,
But
that
every time
community.
she tried to get in on the conversation, he'd shut her down and send her in the store to work. And then if she messed something up in the store, he was like all over her. Terrible.
Yeah.
Just for making mistakes when she never wanted to work in the store in the first place. When he first told her she had to work in the store, she's like, I just want to keep house for you. I want to tend my garden. I want to.
Right, which is what he had told her is what she was
Yeah.
going to be doing
Yeah.
anyway, you know, like if you were my woman,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, but then he told her that he basically isolated her from everyone else. Like she wasn't supposed to associate. There would be events going on, like the mule thing, and he wouldn't let her go. And then he'd tell her, well, you're too good for that.
Yeah.
So basically, they talked about it as being put up on a high chair. You put yourself up on the high chair, which means you're above everybody else. You're better than everybody else. And so that's what he would continually tell her. But yet she was better than everybody but him. And then he would treat her like crap. Anyway, she was married to him for 20 years. They had spent 20 years together. But what I thought was really funny, well, not funny, haha, but there was the scene about the mule.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this old mule that Sky had, and everybody always teased him about this mule. And anyway, he lost it. It got away from him. And while he was off looking, then the mule comes around in front of the store. And the men that were there at the store, they were all laughing because, this old broke down mule, it was mean. So they decided they were going to try and catch it for him. And it turned into them tormenting the poor thing just to get a rise out of it because it was mean.
Mm-hmm.
And Janie's watching all this from inside. And she just mutters something about, why can't they just leave it alone? They're being cruel. What makes men want to torment helpless things? Talk about some symbolism there. Anyway, she mutters about this, but there's really nothing she can do about it. So she just turns and goes back to work. Well, Joe, who had been watching and laughing, heard her said it. And she didn't know that. She was just kind of talking to herself. He heard her said it. All of a sudden, he stops laughing, goes out there and tells him to stop that. Quit messing with that mule. And then he buys the mule from the guy so that he could retire it. It deserves a rest.
Yeah.
So he's now not only not letting her talk, he's taking credit for what she did. And she was so bought into it too that she turned around and told him what a noble thing he'd done. But she made the mistake of saying that in front of other people. She made this pretty little speech about how he'd done such a good thing, but she did it in front of other people. And then he sent her packing because he didn't like that at all.
Which is dumb.
Yeah, I mean,
like, I feel like shouldn't he want that kind of praise from his wife for like other people to know?
Other people to hear, but he didn't like it because they said how well spoken she was.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That they were impressed with her little speech. And but they were saying, how lucky are you that you have a wife that talks so well.
Right. Which again, like that's something he should be proud of. Like
he did not like secondhand shining.
No.
He wanted the shining on him, not reflected off of her.
Well, like in a way that is reflecting on him because he picked her to be his.
Yeah.
But you know what? I get it.
But yeah, I mean, it's who he was. But anyway, I think she did love him. I do.
I think so too.
Because it was like, he didn't treat her that way all the time.
No, there were definitely moments where he was,
they got along well. So, and it alluded to, as they got older, he was quite a bit older than she was also. Because they met when she was like 17. Yeah. But as they got older, it was more of a roommate friendship kind of thing instead of lovers.
Yeah. Friendship.
Yeah.
I don't know. On his deathbed, I was like, girl, he's about to die, and you just up in here, just like saying all this stuff. It
was her only chance to do it. He wouldn't listen. He wouldn't let her speak otherwise.
That's true.
Because I love that part. Because he was dying, and because I don't really remember why. Oh, yes, I do. She lit into him in the
Mhm.
store in front of other people because he was putting her down in the store and she shot back. And yeah, I think he beat her after that.
Yeah.
But um anyway, he had been getting sick. And after that happened, he got sicker and he wouldn't see a doctor because he believed that Janie poisoned him.
Mhm.
And some of the townspeople thought so too. Or put a hex on him or something. There were
Yeah.
little hints like that, you know, they believed in witchcraft and stuff. So Janie kept trying to bring in the doctor, but he wouldn't. There was this kind of snake oil salesman kind
Yeah,
of
like
guy
he
that
bought into all of that,
he bought
like
into that.
traveling salesman
Yeah.
cure
Well, he
stuff.
had kidney failure. And so by the time she got the doctor in there, he said it's too late.
Yeah.
So
The doc was like, if you'd gotten him here like a year or two earlier, we probably
yeah,
could have like done
we
something.
could have saved him. But anyway, he wouldn't even let her like in his sick room. And he would let all these people, it talked about all of these people who hadn't been good enough to come into their home or even into their yard
Mhm.
were now allowed in and in his sick room, and people were keeping her out. And yeah, and finally she kicked everybody out. She went in and
Oh
gave him,
yeah.
I mean, he's literally dying. And she's in there, like, you're going to listen to me.
Yeah. That was a hurricane right there.
She said some stuff, that's for sure.
She did.
But I don't think, I mean, he didn't. She kept saying it was like, I need to tell you this stuff before it's too late. Like, she did not want him to die thinking she poisoned him. But I think really he was so far gone at that point that it was really for her own benefit
Yeah.
to get it off her chest and things. So that was the end of that marriage. But I think this is like in the story of Janie's life, it's like stepping stones to what she wants, you
Mhm.
know, and it's like the first marriage obviously was not, but it did get her, it gave her a direction, it got her started. And then, you know, that wasn't great. That wasn't where she needed to be. And so she went with Joe, and that really wasn't where she needed to be either, but it was better.
Mhm.
And she helped. She did do a lot to help him build up this town and do all kinds of stuff. And you know, they really did build the town. Like
Yeah.
there was like
Like
three,
from the
four,
ground up.
yeah, 3, 4 houses, shacks when they got there. And man, Joe had them. Well, he built his store first, and then with the money he made off the store, he starts building other stuff and
Like a post office
got
and
the
then
post
all the
office.
houses and stuff. He went
Yeah.
out to like, surrounding areas and started being like, hey, come move to our
Mm-hmm.
town and
Made him
started
build
collecting
roads.
rent and yeah.
So, oh, and he went because he was
to the
like
general or to the
the colonel. I
colonel.
think it was a colonel.
Yeah.
The white guy that owned the land around the town. They'd only bought like 5 acres for this town, 10 acres, something like that. And Joe was like, "This is not you can't build a town on that." And they
No.
said, "Well, they're not going to give us anything else." And Joe's like, "I got money," and everybody's laughing at him. They're like, "Oh, whatever." And here he comes back with having bought 200 acres, and he starts parceling it out and selling it off or renting it, and so he really did literally build the town. And Janie
Yeah.
was right there with him, and I think that that was something to her.
Mhm.
And you know, having their own community, so I think that was, I mean, it was, she talked a lot during that time about having her outside life and her inside life.
Mhm.
You know, her inside person was still the young girl that wanted a partner and companionship and love, and the softer things and someone to understand her. And then the outside was just like this blank, you know, she just gave in to Jody, did what he wanted because it was easier than trying to fight with him. He always had to win. She was never going to win with him.
Right.
So it talks a lot about how she was 2 different people. She had 2 different, and I'm like, oh man, girl, I can feel you. I feel you hard down that one. So, it was just it was still in the story of her life, though, it was still a stepping stone to move on. And it got her away. It got her out of the town that she was in. And when Joe died, he left her money.
Yeah.
She left her the house, left her everything was hers.
Yeah, a lot. The store, all of it.
Yeah, so then she was a lot more free to do what she wanted to do. But even then, she's still a woman. What are you going to do? She still had men coming around. Oh, you need a man. You need a man to take care of you.
All just trying to take her money and everything that she had.
Yeah. But at this time, she's still not even 40 years old.
Yeah.
She's like 40. So she's still very young. So, yeah, there was still. But she wasn't having any of it. She was like, nope, that's good. She just smile and nod. But none of them could get on her porch. That's what. I don't know if that was a euphemism or just. There's a lot. I mean, a lot of this socializing in this community took place on the front porch. Either the store was kind of the main gathering place, but that's where you visited, was on the porch. So it wasn't a euphemism. It was just it was. So that was kind of the time in her life. She told her friend Phoebe, because Phoebe was lobbying pretty hard for her to marry this friend of Phoebe's that was an undertaker.
Yeah.
And Janie told her, I'm really liking this freedom. I'm liking being free. And Phoebe goes, don't say that. They will hear you. Don't say that to anybody.
Yeah.
Because they were giving her grief about not wearing black anymore or not. And she's like, why should I?
You start wearing blue and stuff.
Yeah. Why should I dress for mourning if I'm not mourning anymore?
Right.
If I'm not grieving, why should I dress for it?
I just wore this color for everyone else.
Yeah. I was wearing it all for you all, not me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So then she meets Tea Cake.
Yeah, that's such a dumb name, but sorry.
There was a lot of names. There's a lot of nicknames. Lots of nicknames. Well, his real name was.
So
I don't remember.
Wasn't that bad of a name.
It started with a V, something like Virgil. It wasn't Virgil, but it was something like Virgil. I don't remember where it was at.
I don't know. It's my big printed book.
Glasses on, I could probably actually see something.
Joe's funeral, so then. I don't know what his name was.
Woods was his last name.
Yeah, he came in off the street and into the town, and he wasn't even from the town, was he?
No, he was kind of he didn't really have a place to stay. He just kind of wandered and.
Yeah.
Virgil.
Okay, well that's a bad name too.
If that's how you pronounce it. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it or not. But they call him Tea Cake. Tea Cake for short. And they go, okay, well, whatever. Anyway, Tea Cake. But yeah, he was more of like a traveler. He just kind of nomad, wandered around, went where the work was, and had passed through and spent. Everybody else was off at a ball game or something, and so Janie was in the store by herself, and so just passed the evening with her, and then
they played checkers together.
They played checkers, and which is something that Joe never would allow her to do because he told her she was too stupid to play. She could never figure it out. So he taught her to play checkers. And the thing about Tea Cake was he was always telling her, she would say something like, oh, I can't do that. And he was like, yes, you can. Just try. So, you can see where it was going to the next step for Janie.
Yeah. Even though I didn't like any of their relationships out of all of them, her relationship with Tea Cake obviously was the best one.
Well, yeah.
Like, by far. And there was a moment in the book while I was reading, and I literally awed out loud, like, oh, that was real sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in his way, he was really good to her.
Yeah.
And she loved him. I mean, she really did. And at first, because she was a lot older than he was. I think he was like 20. She said she was 12 years older than he was. So that would make him like 28,
Mhm.
right? So she's quite a bit older than he was. So she just figured, oh, he's just here to, whatever, pass some time
Yeah. Or to make her the next what? Annie Tyler, was that her name?
well, that's what they warned her about, was there was another woman who'd run off with a younger man and he just took her
Stole
for
her
took her
money.
for her money and left her. But no, I think she was just thinking that he was just passing through and just like to flirt a little with her while he was on his way to someone else, kind of
Mhm.
thing, is what she thought.
Yeah. She was worried about that the whole time that
Yeah,
they were together.
because of her age.
Yeah.
But I think the part in the house when um, she had dozed off and she woke up and he was combing her hair, and he pretty much came out and told her, no, that was my first awe with them, was because he really did tell her his feelings at that point, and that he was stuck on her and loved her and wanted to marry her, and didn't give two nothings about how old she was. But
See, it took
it
me.
was sweet. It really was
See,
sweet.
that moment
I
happened,
love
and
the
I
way
was
he
still,
talked to
I
her
was
then.
still in my whole like, I don't trust this man. I was with the rest of the town, just like this man, just after the money.
Well, I'm not sure
So,
I
like,
trusted
I
him either, but I did.
couldn't awe at that because I'm like, this man is a
I
player.
did.
Couldn't this man's a player is what I was thinking the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah, but
So,
I did, because at the time, I mean, I didn't really trust him either. I thought too, but it was because Janie thought he was sincere at that point, and Janie was affected by that and how she, you know. So that was just kind of like, oh, because they really did talk a lot too about how Janie did not look her age.
mhm,
She did not look 40. She looked very much younger than that. So really nobody questioned that,
right,
you know,
that they were together.
that they were together when they left. When they left.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, everybody in town knew TK, of course, but, and warned Janie away from him. So yeah, there was the Mrs. Tyler, who was an old widow and took up with younger men all the time. And
Got
she went,
swindled.
yeah, she went running after this one, and he took her money and left.
Yeah.
So yeah, when Janie and Tea Cake run, they don't run off. He goes and he's working, and he tells her basically, it's time, come on. And so she goes up to, was it Palm City that they went to? I think it was where he was at. Anyway, um, she goes up to join him, and it's a bit of a, because he's working on a railroad crew or something, and it's where Janie learns. I mean, she knew he was kind of a not a real stable sort of person,
Mhm.
but she didn't care because, how does she put it? She'd been suffocating by sitting still in that house. She'd been sitting still for 20 years, and it was suffocating her. So she didn't care. She was ready to just whatever, wherever the wind blew, that's where she's going to go with him. And she told him that on more than one occasion. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, they get there, and she starts learning that maybe he's a little more rough than she thought.
Yeah.
But her friend Phoebe had told her, because again, Janie has a lot of money for the time. And so her friend Phoebe told her, you take some of that money out and you hide it. You keep it with you, but you hide it. And then one morning, Janie wakes up and her money pouch is empty.
And tea cake is gone.
And tea cake is gone. And so, you gotta figure at that point. But she still had like what, $15, so she knew she could get back home if she needed to, but she was just didn't want to go.
Yeah, I didn't want to go home with the tail between her legs, being like, yeah, he got me.
Yeah.
Y'all warned me, I didn't listen.
Yeah.
But
after she had left town in her blue satin dress with her high-heeled slippers and her $10 hat.
Yeah.
Making a show of it.
Yeah.
She made a show. But he came back.
He did.
He did.
Eventually.
Not really it was stupid what he did,
Yep.
but at the same time, his explanation of why was pretty on point, I think. Um, so yeah, basically he found the money and he took the money because he said he just wanted the feel of how much that
He's like, I
how
wanted to
that
count
much
it.
money.
He's
Yeah.
like, I wanted to count it, but he
Never
didn't want
did
to
have that
count
much
it right
money.
there. He's like, I gotta take it on the road and count
Wanted
it on the
it in
road.
his pocket.
Yeah.
He never had that much money before. It was $200. And so then he thought, well, he ran across somebody that needed help or something. And so he gave him some money.
He gave them money, and then he spent money on something that.
Well, he kind of got this feeling like,
guitar,
ooh,
yeah.
so that's what it feels like to have money. So basically, he goes and he buys all this food and drink and throws a party at the railroad yard and invites everybody along. They party all night long. And then there's a guy there with a guitar, and they're having so much fun with this guitar that he spends $15 on this guitar, and it's really worth $65.
65, like all day.
Yeah. So he's home, he's telling Janie all this, how he went out and partied on her money and how it was great and it was so much fun.
And then they started gambling.
Well, but Janie says, instead of getting mad at him for stealing her money or anything, she's like, well, when you had so much fun, why didn't you bring me with you?
Like, girl, this is what you're asking? Like, okay.
What? What? If anything, I wouldn't have been pouting about it, because it said she pouted. I would have been laying into him going, you bastard. You went out and partied and didn't even bring me along on my money. Anyway, it did. And you could see, like, I could see it. And then he told her that he didn't leave her behind because he didn't want her to be there, or he didn't think she would be fun. He didn't want her there.
Mm-hmm.
It was because he was afraid. He was afraid because she was, how do you put it? None of these people were muckety mucks, and she was a high lady.
Mm-hmm.
And so he didn't want her to have to associate with people like he did, that she would think less of him and that she wouldn't want to stay with him.
Yeah.
She would leave him. So, I mean, I think for the time and for the culture, and there was another part in this book that made me think, but I'll make that. Anyway, I still didn't really care for that little slip, but yet I could kind of understand, given the type of person he was.
Yeah.
Why he did it.
Yeah.
And then he went out gambling, because that's when he reveals to her he's a gambler and a good one. And he won all her money back, plus some. So.
Yep. Then he got stabbed. Or cut.
He got cut.
Got cut.
Yeah.
But, he pretty much almost killed the other guy, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I thought he did kill the other guy.
Maybe he did.
I think he did kill the other guy.
I don't know, because he did make a comment about how, like, you aren't the one that should be crying. It should be this other dude's woman.
Yeah.
It's like, there should be no tears for him.
Yeah. So anyway, that was that.
He's a bad boy.
Yeah.
Janie's got a thing for a bad boy.
She did. She ran off with a bad one.
Mm-hmm.
A bad boy. But yeah. But, and that was the other thing too, because he won back her $200, which he gave her.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd actually won like over $300.
It's like $323.
Yeah. So he gave her $200 back.
And
he kept the rest.
Mm-hmm.
But he told her then, because she at that point told him, this is not all I have. I have about $1,200 in the bank, which for the time was a lot of money. And he told her right then and there, he says, we ain't touching your money.
Yeah.
We're
living off mine.
We will live off whatever I make. And if I don't make it, you don't get it. And she was like, cool. Okay. So I think he was like saying, don't get your expert. We are not taking your money.
Right.
And again, for the time, because again, there's in the book, there was towards the end, there was another a line that Tea Cake had where he said something about, I wanted you to know you're with a man. And so I think, and I may be reaching here, but I think for the time, given that this was only 60 years after slavery, maybe 70, maybe, and obviously still very much segregated and Jim Crow laws and racism, I think being a Black man, I mean, obviously they're going to have still all the societal expectations that any man has on them to be caretakers and providers and such. But then to be a Black man, to have those societal expectations and then be basically like second-class citizens under white people.
Yeah.
That had to be, I mean, I don't know, that had to just eat at them, It really did. I would think that constantly being belittled, when you're supposed to be the man. So I wonder if, because there's a lot of talk about wife beaten in this book. And like, that was normal.
Oh yeah. No, there was like that whole scene where Tea Cake had beat her and left bruises on her that were visible to everybody else, but yet she was still like so like she took it so well, and all of the people in the field were like, you're so lucky you have a woman that didn't haul off and beat you back. Like she, like that's a keeper, like
because she can take her beatings.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not okay.
Yeah, well, and the one guy that talked about how he quit beating his wife because it wasn't worth it because she just beat him.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, with that guy, that might have just been a lot of talk. Because the thing you get from this, all of their porch discussions, is there's a whole lot of big talk going on.
A lot of stories being made up and passed around, and not a whole lot of truth to those stories.
You never know quite what the truth was, but there's always the kernel of it. But I think for the time, that was just socially acceptable, that I do wonder if that's where a lot of that came from. Just the need to be in control and in charge and be the man.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he did only hit her that one time, though.
He did.
So I can't even remember why. Why did he hit her?
I don't remember either. It was for a dumb reason.
Mm-hmm. It was. Anyway, I don't remember why. But, I think it was over Mrs. Turner. Wasn't it? Remember the woman that was really
that didn't like tea cake?
Colorism? Well, she didn't like Tea Cake. She didn't like any.
No, well, tea cake was like really dark skinned.
Yeah, she didn't like anybody dark.
Yeah, and so she was not for.
Well, she was friends with Janie because Janie, again, was lighter skinned and had Caucasian features, which to this woman was
acceptable.
Better. It was better. And it was Mrs. Turner's idea that if they could basically weed out the dark people, that the rest of them could integrate into white society. Because that was the only reason in her mind that the whites didn't accept them, was because their people were too dark. Okay. But anyway, she wanted to be friends with Janie because of that, because she was also a lighter skinned Caucasian featured woman. And she thought they needed to be together because they were better.
Yeah.
Class us up. It would class us up. So she didn't like Tea Cake because Tea Cake was dark and he was kind of rough and he was, rowdy, rambunctious, loud kind of person. And Mrs. Turner didn't approve of him, and she thought it was an insult to Janie that she was married to Tea Cake. And so she tried to get Janie to leave Tea Cake and marry her brother instead.
Yeah.
So her poor brother, I think, got the raw end of a couple deals. But anyway. So anyway, yeah, I think Tea Cake and Janie had a pretty good relate. I mean, Janie was living it, man. She loved that life.
Yeah.
She was basically doing whatever she wanted. They were like, she'd go work in the fields if she wanted to, stayed home if she wanted to.
Yeah.
Parties all the time. There was always people at their house on their porch. And then they had left wherever they were at, what city they were, and then gone down to the Everglades to work on a bean farm, plantation, whatever. They planted, and then they'd wait around, and then they'd be there to harvest. And then after harvest, a lot of people just took off. And
Yeah.
then some people stayed, though, to be there first for the next season. And Janie and Tea Cake stayed. And so then they got to kind of being friends with some of the Bahama people that had come up. And so there was a little bit of that in there, and how they'd have parties. They'd have dance parties, fire dance parties till dawn. And they were really partying it up.
Yeah.
So I think, I think Janie was pretty darn happy. Well, I mean, she loved Tea Cake. She loved that man.
Yeah.
And I think he did too. He loved her.
Yeah. It definitely was the best relationship out of all of them. I didn't have a whole lot of negative things to say about it.
Pretty good relationship. I do. He was kind of insecure.
So was she.
Well, I don't think as much as he was, though. She was insecure about her age, but I think that wasn't really a big factor. But he was constantly thinking, though, about her class. He thought she was a class above. And that, because he's still, he was always questioning her about staying with him and all that. So I think he was, I don't know, maybe half the time expecting that she was going to up and leave.
Yeah.
Decide he was no good and up and leave. But anyway, yeah. There was a couple scenes there at the end where she just told him that she was good. She was there with him no matter what, wherever they wanted to go. And he would always be kind of surprised by that.
Yeah.
Whenever she'd say something and he'd go, "Thank you, ma'am." I thought it was so sweet. It was. Don't even try. It was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he was so, I mean, I don't want to say appreciative. Nobody shouldn't be really appreciative in a relationship just because somebody's nice to you. But
I think that you should have a little bit at
least. Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't. I mean, granted, like you should. There's like a level of like respect and whatever that you should expect.
Yes.
If you're in a relationship with somebody, but also I feel like there were some things that to him that might have been like normal for anyone else. Like they were a lot bigger. They meant a lot more to him, and they weren't something that he would have expected.
Yes.
Someone to say, and that's why.
Yes.
He, I think, was more appreciative of what she was saying.
That's what appreciative. I just don't want to say grateful, because that suggests an imbalanced relationship. If you're grateful because somebody's nice to you,
like they're doing something for you.
Yeah, that's
like it's a favor.
That's not balanced.
No.
But appreciative.
Yeah.
And I do think, I think you really loved her and, really cherished her.
Yeah.
For who she was. Because, I mean, my gosh, she was just whatever she wanted to do. And like I said before, if he told her or she said, "No, I can't do that," and he's like, "Yes, you can."
Yeah, he believed in her.
Get out there and do it. You can do it. Just try. So I think in that way, he pushed her. She was with Jody, and in that town, she was kind of stagnating, and he pushed her out of that.
Mm-hmm. He gave her the opportunity to be the woman that she wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. And I think she was with Tea Cake for the most part.
Yeah.
Because there is some real, I mean, obviously, there's some real, feminist themes in the book. And can a woman of that time ever truly be exactly what she wants to be? you know, can we even know? I don't know sometimes. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that there, and obviously, that's probably, to me anyway, I would say that's probably the biggest theme of the book, because it is a woman's story, and it is a woman of doing things that shouldn't be, wouldn't be the norm for her time and her race, um, to do. So I think there is some, Janie really did take charge.
Mhm.
She took charge when she left her first husband to go with Joe. And, she took charge when she left with Tea Cake, because that was not, if she listened to what she was supposed to do, everybody was telling her to do, that is not the sort of person she should have gone with. She was much higher stature and he was not good enough for her. But she knew what she wanted, and so she did.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, I think it is very much a feminist book for her, doing that. Um, and when Tea Cake died,
That was rough.
that was rough. There was a hurricane. That was, I thought, was so well written during that time. I did. I mean, I wasn't scared through it. It's not like it was horror or anything, but there was just something creepy about, I mean, obviously when they were talking about, I was tense about, because you knew that the cabins that they lived in were built directly against the dam of a big lake. And this hurricane's coming through. And prior to that, there's like these groups of Indians are coming by. And finally, Janie, because I mean, they've seen Indians, but like in ones or twos. And these are whole groups of people. And finally, Janie asks, and they tell her there's a hurricane coming. We're getting to higher ground. And then it talks about wildlife starting to come through, all headed east. Everybody's headed east. And the people are there like, nah, we're going to stay here. It's just Indians. Indians are dumb anyway. Everybody knows that. So there's racism all over in this book. So then, of course, the hurricane hits, and there's the whole tense about what are they going to do, and when is the dam going to break, and how are they going to get out, and all of that. And then when they leave and they're going through the water, and there's a line in there that says dead things in the water. Things in the water that were dead, and then things dead in the water that shouldn't have been there. Things shouldn't have been in the water. I don't remember how it went, but it was like, that's creepy, because you know what they were talking about. And, it was just, I don't know. It was really creepy to me. But Tea Cake has to defend Janie from a dog, and it bit him. And then they go on, they make it out, and they're in this place, and that was kind of scary too, when they were in Palm City, and basically there were like these armed white men that were going and rounding up all the black guys to put them to work. And Tea Cake was like, we got to get out of it. And it's never said, but you can just feel, or at least I thought, how Tea Cake felt. He was not born into slavery, but you could feel it. This is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
They were basically forcing them into work.
Yeah. And it was crazy what they were doing too. Like, they were digging graves for all of the people that died in the hurricane, and they had to separate out all of the whites and the blacks, because all of the white people were getting coffins and all of the blacks were not.
Well, and you certainly couldn't, even if they were just going into mass graves, you could not mix them. Mm-mm. And so these black workers were going, you can't tell. And that was kind of, oh, dear Lord. They couldn't tell in some cases if they were black or white. And so they just say, well, go by their hair if you can't tell by their skin color. Like, oh, that's icky. Hi, Jason, by the way. Thanks for stopping in. So yeah, that was kind of creepy. So that whole section of that hurricane and the aftermath was just like, it felt tense because they were like 60 some years or so out of slavery, but it wasn't gone. It wasn't gone. So anyway, Tea Cake and Janie leave and they go back to their place, but then Tea Cake gets sick, and pretty soon you realize that the dog was rabid, the dog that bit him, and so he has rabies. And because they didn't know it at the time, and even if they had worried about the dog being rabid, there was no way he was going to get medical treatment where they were at.
No.
So it was way too late for him. And he basically went crazy and tried to kill Janie. Mm-hmm. And Janie had to kill him.
Janie got a gun.
Janie got a gun. Oh my God, look at you. Didn't even think about that one. Yeah. So, yeah, he was, just out of his mind. Yeah. And so he had this gun. He was going to shoot her, and she got a rifle and defended herself, and she shot him and killed him. So.
And then they tried to charge her for murder.
And then she gets arrested, and she's in jail. And after the doctor tells the sheriff and the judge the circumstances, they decide that they need to have her trial right away. So basically, within 2 days, she's killed her husband, she's in jail, and she's out of trial. They do set her free. But a lot of the Black people are against her because I don't know why. She killed Tea Cake, and everybody loved Tea Cake. But after the trial, they were, I don't know. And then she spent a lot of money on Tea Cake's funeral and really gave him this big old send-off. And that apparently was the deciding factor. That they decided, well, I guess maybe she didn't mean it. Maybe she's telling the truth.
Yeah.
Did you see that send-off she gave him?
It's like, there's no way that she did that on purpose and then have a funeral like that.
Okay, sure. If that's what we need to go with, then fine. So then Janie goes home.
Yep.
Janie goes home and has to face. She's been gone, 2 years, I think she said, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that happened in 2 years. 2 years' time. And basically the story is Janie telling her friend Phoebe, because all the other people are sitting on their porches just about her, and
they send Phoebe over to get the story out of her because they want to know the gossip, but they know that Phoebe's probably the only one that she go and talk to.
And that they're just talking about, I bet he left her. I bet she has no money left. Mm-hmm. And I bet she's learned her lesson.
Yeah, look at her coming back here in her overalls after she left in her dress.
She's in overalls.
All this stuff. Like, where did her dress go?
And they're really just tearing her down. And Phoebe goes, that is my friend you're talking about. And goes on about how I already made my husband some supper, and now I'm taking supper over to her. And they're all, well, tell us what she says. And she's like, no. I'll tell you what she wants me to tell you. But at the end, Janie tells Phoebe, you tell them. You tell them whatever, whatever they want to know. Go ahead and tell them. This is my story. And in the beginning, it talks about something like the greatest, what was it? The greatest thing a person can do, what was it? Telling her story, self-revelation. What was it? I'll find it. It just starts out perfect, too. That first paragraph, the first 2 paragraphs are just crazy good. Yeah, well, I don't know what it is, but anyway, being that Janie needs to get this told. Janie needs people to understand. It's as much for her sake that she's telling Phoebe. She needs to have herself known. And so that, that was like the best thing a person could get, was to be able to share themselves, to give that self-revelation. So Janie was telling it as much as for herself to get it off as to let Phoebe, her best friend, know what had happened. So she was like, I don't care who you tell. I don't care. I'm not ashamed. She wasn't ashamed of her relationship with Tea Cake. She wasn't ashamed of what happened. So she's like, oh, go ahead and tell him. And that, now she was content.
Mm-hmm.
She told him, and
she found the love she was looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Finally got that love.
So now she was content to sit there in her house and just be for a while. And she still wasn't old. She's still only like 42 years old.
Yeah.
So who knows? And she's got money in the bank. That was the first thing that she told Phoebe was, don't worry about me. I still have money in the bank. He did not take my money. So she's fine. Because they never did touch her money. So I don't know. It just really was. I loved it because I think, Janie did the best she could in the circumstances that she had. And I think, again, I think she had a good relationship with Joe. It just wasn't what she wanted because she couldn't be equal with him.
Right.
It was better than the husband her grandma picked out for her, but she still was not equal. She was still under his foot. And then with Tea Cake, even though he wasn't as rich, he wasn't as well respected, but yet they were equals. Mm-hmm. And he treated her like an equal. And that's what she wanted.
That's what everyone should want.
Yeah. From the time when she was 16, watching the bee pollinate the pear tree and seeing nature is in balance. That's what she wanted. And that's what she got with Tea Cake. So it was, her journeying through that. And then she had that. And then she said she felt content because she'd had it. And she knew now. Mm-hmm. So it was really her journey through that. But I like, too, there were so many cultural references. Having read, not that I'm by any means any sort of expert or anything, but, having read like Beloved, mm-hmm. And just different, I was trying to think the other book that had the same kind of, well, it'll come to me later. Just getting a peek inside the culture of the Black communities at that time. And knowing that, the porch sitting, talking groups was, important socializing at the time. And dang, Henrietta Lacks, that's the book.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
but I couldn't even register that.
The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks,
which is a good book.
Is also a very good book. But getting to see and understand at least a little bit of that culture and how it went. But Zora Neale Hurston was also an anthropologist, and she spent time in Haiti just studying people. And she actually wrote 2 books on Black. Well, one was like Southern Black folklore, and one was about like Jamaican, Haitian folklore. And you can see that in there, just the little references in it. It was nothing like, she would talk about, well, like when Tea Cake was sick, and she would talk about, well, I'm going to go get you this herb. It'll take away this. Mm-hmm. Or when she talked about how her grandma used to have these headaches, she'd get a sick headache, and how she would go get her leaves, these particular leaves. And you could see the anthropology coming out, and where these traditions and this folklore that Hurston obviously studied to, coming out. And there's just those little tidbits like that were just really interesting to me to see. And of course, her writing is amazing. Just saying.
For Kelly.
Just saying. Come on. It is like the first paragraph. Where is it?
I honestly am starting to wonder if this book was just too deep for me, and I just didn't get it.
There were so many things though, that just the way she would put things. I'm gonna read the whole first paragraph, but the first line is, ships at a distance have every man's wish on board. And it describes how, sometimes those dreams, those wishes come into port, and sometimes they stay out to sea, and they, sail away, and they get sail away until the watcher turns away, his dreams mocked to death by time. That's the life of men. Now women forget all those things they don't want to remember, and remember everything they don't want to forget. The dream is the truth. Then they act and do things accordingly. I'm like, God, that means so much to me. I mean, it just does. I don't know. It just does. I'm like,
That's great.
That's so true, though. It's just so true. But the other one was, she was talking about love, and how Phoebe should tell them if they want to go on and on about love, and how her love was wrong. How'll she say it? I probably won't be able to find it, but basically she talks about, everybody wants to make love one thing. It has to be this. It has to be like this. Oh, I'm not going to read it in the dialect because I'll sound stupid. But then you must tell them that love ain't something like a grindstone. That's the same thing everywhere and do the same thing to everything it touches. Love is like the sea. It's a moving thing, but still in all, it takes its shape from the shore it meets, and it's different with every shore. Come on. That's just cool. That's just cool. Anyway, I could probably quote stuff.
I don't know. I didn't get it.
Didn't get
it. I read that. I'm just like, huh? So I don't know. Maybe I'm just like the dumb one that doesn't understand the deep meanings behind things. But
I don't know. I think it's just talking about it in different ways. Like talking about everybody's love is different. And you tell those people over there that want to make love some kind of this, fit it in a box, that it has to be this. She talks about the grindstone, like grinding everything down. It's the same thing all the way around. And that's not love.
She should have just said it that way.
Well, that was another thing about the book and about kind of some of the culture is that, they would use similes a lot. The language of the people in that culture was using similes. And that, I can't remember what I read something. Maybe it was in the afterword that they had great names. They were wonderful name callers because nothing was ever just what it was. So, it makes sense that she would use comparisons and similes like that, because that's what they did. They never just, sometimes they did just come out and say what it was, but yeah, they were. I liked it.
I like it straight
up. And then,
but
during the hurricane, where the title of the book comes from.
Yeah. It took all, well over half, you're almost at the end of the book before the title of the book makes sense. Or, comes through.
Yeah, before it's said. I wasn't sure it ever was going to be said, but it was during the hurricane.
Yeah, because they were sitting there waiting it out, and something about how, as they sat there, their eyes were watching God to something about how if the lake was going to, I don't know.
Well, yeah, they weren't watching. And motorboat survived the hurricane. That was funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was just cool. I just like it. I think I'm going to try and find her books on folklore, especially the southern folklore. I think they're really interesting.
Oh, I would have liked the Jamaican Haitian one.
Maybe we should just find them.
Maybe.
But I think because the way she talked about death, the first time when Joe was dying, and then again after the after the hurricane. They called him with the square toes.
Yeah.
They talked about him wearing square-toed boots and up in his high flat house without sides to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to read this again slower so that I can actually mark the places that it said. But right there. Yeah. Oh, when they talked about, just talked about basically it was beyond their control at this point. Like,
It was a whole Jesus take the wheel moment.
It really was. Talked about the big massa upstairs.
Yeah.
Massa. It was just like, yeah. I don't know. It was really cool the way they talked about them. Janie says, because they were messing around, like just throwing dice and stuff, and they stopped when some thunder hit, and Janie says, "I'm glad you all stopped that, even if it wasn't for money, because they were just playing around." She said, "Old Master's doing his work now. Us ought to keep quiet." And that's just anyway. Yeah, they're talking about there's nothing they can do. They're just sitting there huddling when the wind came back, and they sat in the company with the others, and their eyes straining against crude walls, and their souls asking if he meant to measure their puny might against his being God. They seemed to be staring at the dark, but their eyes were watching God. Just like, that doesn't give you a chill? Just
a little bit.
Just like in the middle of all this, they're looking up and watching God. What are you gonna do, God?
That part in the book was like the only part that I was like, okay, I get that. I finally understand something, and like that was like, okay, all right,
yeah. Like they're watching him. What are you gonna do? Yeah. Knowing that there's nothing. Yeah. Anyway, there it is.
Yeah.
I loved it, and that's why I loved it. So there you go.
I still give it 2 stars. I landed on 2 stars because I didn't hate it. I'm sorry. I just the language and everything else just so it's not the book. It's me. It's not me. It's the book or whatever. It's not whatever.
It's not you. It's me.
It's not you. It's me.
It's not you. It's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
We've been down this road. Amy doesn't do poetic writings.
No, you didn't really like Beloved either.
No, I did not.
Love it so much.
That's a great book. If you like Beloved, you would like this book. If you like this book, you'd like Beloved. I'm just going to say that right now. It's pretty
somewhat.
There's a lot more.
Beloved's quite a bit longer.
It is longer, and there's a lot more things that are just like, ooh, that's not okay.
It's a little, because it is.
It's a rough book.
It is set right after emancipation. So yeah, it's very rough. It's pretty rough stuff, but it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and it will rip your heart out. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about that book right now, but I'm going to remind Amy what that book was about. Yeah. Anyway, I can very much see why this is considered to be an important part of literature, and African American literature in particular. Just if nothing else, for the kind of snapshot in time and a look at the culture of the time, because this was the time that Zora Neale Hurston was alive. She was born in the late 1800s, so she would have been in her 40s during the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So this was her time, and I don't know if there's anything. I have no idea if there's anything considered to be autobiographical about Janie for Nora, but it would have been the time that Zora was living and writing. So, if nothing else, then for the snapshot of the culture of the time I could see. The other thing, and just quickly, because we've already gone on for over an hour. I think I had mentioned or maybe I just talked to you about it. I had watched a booktuber video once, an African American booktuber, and she talked about how a lot of the kind of own voices books that were coming out now she didn't really like because they were still written for white people. It was still like talking about Black trauma and racism, of course. Um, but she said it wasn't written for her because she already knows that stuff. She already knows what that feels like. It's still written to educate white people. And that she really wanted to read more books featuring Black people by Black people that were for Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to wonder if this would be a book in that category. I've always wanted to message her or email her and ask her what she meant by that, but the video is like 2 years old when I watched it, so it felt squeaky to do. But I always wondered if maybe something like Beloved or this, because there is some racism in there. It's not like an everyday feature of these people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
It is about their culture and their lives within their culture. And so I wonder if that's, and I can see why that's important. Because, I wouldn't want women's fiction to be constant. I have complained about that.
Yeah.
How women's fiction is just always about oppression. Oh, here we go again. A man oppressing a woman again. Go figure. That's not what we're all about. So I can see the point. I really can. And so I wonder if this is considered. I don't know. Maybe somebody could tell me. I would love to know if you all would educate me. That would be great. I would love it. If what she meant was something like this book or another book, or if that's why it's important to you is because that this is more about y'all instead of trying to educate somebody else about you. I don't know. I don't really know, but I would love to. So that thought crossed my mind when it came to that book. So anyway, here we are. Do you have anything you'd like to say? Because I just talked my way entirely through that. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to complain about? I won't roll my eyes too hard at you.
My only complaint is that I thought it was boring, but that's it. I didn't like I said, the language didn't do it for me, and I think that's why a big part of the reason why I thought it was boring, because I didn't really understand what was going on. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just I'm spending my entire time trying to understand what is being said, and it was way too much brain work for me. And my copy, it's a lot bigger than Kelly's just because it's larger print, and mm-hmm. So I was so thankful for that because it did make it a little bit easier to read still, but it was, I don't know, it was still difficult for me. So I just think, I don't know, I might need to try a different version of the book, audiobook or listening to it out loud or something, because trying to read the physical copy was just a struggle. And there were just so many times where I just wanted to give up.
Yeah?
Yeah. Aww. I'm I don't really care about these characters because I really don't even know what's happening right now. And there wasn't any moments to me personally that I felt super impacted by what was happening. And hurricane came and I'm just okay. And I don't know. So
that's too bad.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's okay. I'm really glad that you liked it. That you loved it.
I loved it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I did.
It just wasn't for me.
Yeah. And that could be because I do tend to read more of that style, so it's easier sometimes. I'm sure there's still a bunch that went over my head. But there was just some things, especially around women in womanhood that just, the way she put it just like hit. And it just like, oh man, that's real. That is real. I don't care if you're black or white or yellow or whatever. That's going to hit because you're a woman. And it did. It did. So I liked that. You know what? Jeannie never had any children.
No, and that was one
That's what
thing
it kind
that
of amazed
surprised
me.
me. Because I kind of figured like that was like the whole, one of the points of being married is you want to push out some babies, but
Well, that was never really,
it was never forced on her by anyone.
it was never really talked about like that way either.
No.
Nobody ever questioned, why don't you have children?
No, and they never really talked about, like, even in the town, there wasn't like a talk of other people having kids
No.
or families. Like,
No.
every now and again when they would mention someone was married, it was always just talking about like his woman or
Yeah.
her
Well,
man. It was never like talking about
yeah,
the
there
family.
was the one lady that came in with begging for food for her children.
Yeah, but I mean,
But-
other than that, like, there wasn't
Yeah.
really a whole lot of.
It really didn't. And so it made me think that maybe I missed something in the beginning. Like I said, there was just little things dropped all the time. And so I may have missed it. Maybe her grandma did something because of what happened to her and what happened to her mom. But then again, that's why she married her off. But there was never any pregnancies. There was never any talk of it. Never any Janie saying, oh my gosh, I don't want to get pregnant type thing. I don't know. So I don't know. That was just, it wasn't really strange. Like, took me out the story strange, but I did think about it every once in a while because I was like, well, when's she going to have a kid?
Yeah.
But no, she didn't. So there you go.
Just, you don't always have to have a kid. You can be a woman and not want kids.
Well, granted, but it's not like they had birth control.
No, and that.
I mean, birth control was a thing back then, but it wouldn't have been for poor black women. Well,
You can
yeah.
always just like pull out. So, like.
Well, yeah, but that works so well. And I don't think they probably did because men wouldn't care if you were popping babies out. But I mean, it was a thing, but it was not a thing probably for these people, or at least the majority of these people. So, and it was pretty well implied that Janie was having sex. So, especially with tea cake.
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely so.
Yeah.
One instance after their big fight that they had.
So I don't know if maybe by the time that she met him, she'd already passed that stage.
She wasn't even 40. Or like she was just barely 40. So that's, I don't know.
I know people that started at 35. Barely over 40 myself when I started. So yeah, I mean, it can happen young. And maybe I was trying to think, did you ever get the feeling that she slept with her first husband?
I think that it happened once.
Just once, like
I think at least once, maybe twice, and then after that, it was like neither one of them wanted anything to do with the other.
Yeah,
in that way.
Because I know, a lot of their relationship with Joe was not. It was platonic, but they did at first anyway.
Yeah,
and it was 20 years, so you would think something had happened at some point, but I don't know. A little bit of an oddity. That's why I wonder if I missed something at the beginning. If there was some little hint dropped that because of their line, their maternal line, maybe something happened. I don't know. Like I said, there was all kinds of little folklore droppings through the whole thing, so I may have missed something there. Anyway, there went another 10 minutes. Sorry. I could probably talk about this book for another hour, probably. But
that does not surprise me at all.
I know. I know. She's telling me I'm wordy.
You wordy?
No.
Passionate.
There's just so much to talk about in this book.
All 190 pages.
I know, right? I could probably read the book faster again than I could talk about it.
Probably.
Probably so. Anyway, I definitely see why it's an important addition, and I'm glad I read it. Gonna go on my favorite shelf right back here.
Mine's going back to the library.
Beloved's on that shelf too, just so you
I think I unhauled my copy, Beloved.
know. Ugh. Okay, I'm just saying, seriously, crazy good book. Crazy good. Okay, I'm done now. So,
Yeah.
glad y'all showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it. Jason, thank you for commenting. Appreciate that too.
Yeah.
We'll shut up now.
Yeah, if you guys have any comments or things that you want to share with us about this book, or if you have some suggestions for Kelly, because she makes more books like this.
Like you said, educate me. I'd love it. I would love to know. I really, really would. Keep going. I'm done.
Okay. Anyway, let us know down in the comments below this video, all of that and more. Yeah, our next book club book for
Oh, yeah.
June.
What we
Should
are
be
reading now, or will be reading now,
I'm so excited.
The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. We are on a Southern kick, apparently.
Oh yeah, honey.
So,
With old Grady Hendrix.
Good
Kelly's
job.
giving Grady Hendrix another try. She's so
3
excited.
times. This is the 3rd time. If this does not go well for me, I'm done with Grady. We'll see how this goes. I think I said during our pickin' video that I was really hoping this will be very Southern.
Mm-hmm.
I am really hoping that it will be.
And if I know anything about Grady Hendrix writing, is he really likes to lean into the setting.
He does.
Everything.
He does.
Because like even My Best Friend's Exorcism, I wasn't like a super huge fan of that book, but he went hard into that 80s theme.
He did.
And it was
very much
wonderful. So I'm
very much
hoping that he probably did the same with this one.
And this, as the title suggests, there is a group of Southern women in a book club, and there is a new arrival to their town, and they figure out it's a vampire.
They gotta chase him out.
So they get together to go chase him out. So I am seriously hoping this is very Southern, because nothing makes me giggle more than a Southernism.
Yep.
They just make me giggle. So anyway, this is what we're reading. Here in June, we will be back in, I don't know, probably not the first Saturday in July. Or Sunday. Oh, maybe. That would be close to 4th of July.
You have big plans for 4th
No,
of July?
I don't. I like 4th of July. I don't particularly care for fireworks.
Agreed. So we're fine.
Okay. Well, I was just like, if the 4th lands on a Sunday, I don't even know if it does. Anyway.
We'll let you know. We'll keep you
figure it out.
We'll keep you posted. But for right now, we're still planning on first Sunday in July.
First Sunday.
I almost said June.
July.
What is that off of that movie? Oh, July. It's from My Best Friend's.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite Christmas movies.
The
Best Man Holiday, I think is what it's called.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking of.
Oh.
Okay.
Now
I don't know what I was thinking
It's got
of.
Morse Chestnut and Tay Diggs in it, and he's like going up to the kids, and the kid's name's August, and he's like giving them crabs. It's like, what's your name? Like, July. It's like, I'm not August, but you. It's a great movie. Highly recommend. Best Man Holiday.
Not what I was thinking of. So I was thinking something else, but I don't know what it was. Anyway, this is it. Read it now. Read it with us. Come back. First Sunday in July. We tend to start about 3-ish.
Yeah, there's some circumstances today where we
sometimes it doesn't happen, but yes.
We're shooting for 3.
3. So you can come and discuss the book with us. And I don't know, other than that, come back next Sunday. We will have new stuff up every Sunday.
At 3-ish
o'clock. Except I think last week was Monday.
Okay, that was literal technical difficulties because I was trying to upload that video at my brother's house and he didn't have internet.
Oh, that's an issue.
That is an issue.
That's a
So,
problem. That's a
yep.
problem.
Try to use mobile
So yeah,
hotspot.
anyway,
It's fine. It's fine.
It's giving me shit because I couldn't do it at all. So
Yeah, the video got up. Okay.
and the video went up.
It's fine.
Anyway, every Sunday. So yeah, so come back. You can go back to Amy's channel and see all of our other book content that we have. You can also look at other stuff that she has on her channel because it's not all just book stuff, although that is probably the best stuff. But still,
Just because Kelly's in.
naturally.
Naturally.
But no, she has all kinds of other lifestyle sorts of things. Fashion and home decor and cleaning and her kitties. And she also has a blog as well, which has even more stuff on it. So lots to explore, lots to see. So as she's not said at the moment, like this video if you did like it. Or you know what? Even if you didn't like it, just give it a thumbs up and be nice about it.
Yeah, because it's free to do and it helps us out a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then if you did enjoy it and you'd like to see more, hit that little red subscribe button and then you'll get notified when Amy puts up something new. Even if it doesn't feature me, which is a shame, but it does. I'm kidding. Whatever.
Kelly, we know that you are the star of the YouTube channel.
We need to go. It's been an hour and a half. I'm sure y'all are tired of us by now.
Yes.
But anyway, this has been our discussion of Your Eyes Were Watching God.
Wow! Over here be like, I love this book and don't even remember the
I
title.
did, but I was just getting ready to say my eyes were on God. I don't know why. I don't know, other than it's been an hour and a half and I'm tired. So, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston.
And yeah, so another video coming in. I'm Amy.
I'm Kelly.
And we are
the Everyday Epic Book
Book
Club.
We'll see y'all in the next one.
Thanks for coming.